So, I come from a high socioeconomic status, and when someone asks me to go to dinner at a pricier restaurant, the first thing I'll think about is the food that's served there. I'll ask a question or maybe two to see if the quality of the food is worth the money that I'm spending for it. I'll also think about the reason for going, whether it's something like a birthday or some celebration, or even just something more casual like catching up with a good friend. Either way, I'm probably gonna agree to go. I think about money on pretty much a daily basis, but I'm sure it's in a different way than a lot of people do. I'm really lucky, much luckier than many others less fortunate than me, that I found a great work opportunity as a student that allows me to have a lot of money. And growing up, I learned that it's important to keep track of how much you're spending and whether or not you can afford it. But that being said, I'm very aware that I think about money much more comfortably than those of my peers less wealthy than me. And to date, I don't think I have a good idea of what it means to be financially limited. And in that regard, I think I'm very lucky and very privileged to be well off enough for my socioeconomic status to prevent me from having a typical Duke experience. I definitely don't think I've ever felt limited because of my socioeconomic status.
So, I'm middle class, and when my friends ask me if I want to eat at an expensive restaurant, I get kind of annoyed because most of my friends know that I don't come from a ton of money. It honestly seems a little rude and as if they're not really taking me into consideration. You know, I think about money probably every day. All of my choices are geared towards minimizing spending because I have limited funds, and having to borrow from my parents seems so fundamentally wrong when, even with financial aid, they're being stretched pretty thin by two variants. When I think about my Duke experience and whether or not it's been limited by my socioeconomic status, I mean, kind of, yeah, it has. Study abroad was hard because not only did it not fit into my schedule, I also knew how expensive it would be to have the fun Euro trip everyone has. And so I opted to stay on campus my junior fall instead of going abroad. An example, this past year in choosing where to live for my senior year, I was always the one telling my roommates that apartments were out of my budget. I also was usually pretty frustrated because I would specifically find more affordable living situations that would get shut down immediately.
I come from a low socioeconomic status, and when someone asks me if I want to eat at a pretty expensive restaurant, I just say no. I know I can't afford shit and that there's no way I can spare the money. I typically aim at just like eating at a cheaper place or avoiding the use of my money for food, using the meal plan, or if it's late emergency, just going for a cookout run. I think about money every day, all the time. If I have to use my car, I consider the gas I use. If I have to spend money on food, I consider how much that affects the money I'll have left, or else I'll have to try to not run low on cash and have to rely on my parents in case of an emergency, which I don't want to do. Typically, once a day, I'll look up any research studies on Duke lists in order to get any extra bit of cash during the week at all. I'm very open about being broke as fuck. It's part of my identity and my family and my own personal struggle. And money has defined almost all my decision making along with my undocumented status. It was based on both of those statuses that I decided that college was my only option to better my socioeconomic status level.